Hello, my name is Cher Grieving, and this is my case study for EDL 854 on missing booster club funds. A brief summary of this case study is that we have parent volunteers working at the gate of an athletic event, and at the end of the evening, pre-numbered tickets have been discarded, thrown away, and money is missing from the bank bag. So first of all, category 1, our problem identification and analysis. What do I know? After reading the case study, I realized that Mr. Stevens is the principal at George Washington School District. He is the only administrator supervising at this particular sporting event. He relies on parent volunteers to work the gate at the concession stand. Some other information is that the school district where George Washington is located, the population of the families have declined. The socioeconomic status of the families have declined, and this school district does not have many young families involved. People are moving away and moving out of the more rural area into the suburban area outside of the city. Mrs. Bowman is a parent who has volunteered to work the gate at the last home basketball game. This parent, Mrs. Bowman, has recently been told by the principal, Mr. Stevens, that she is being denied her request for PTA funds to sponsor her daughter at the all-state cheer tryouts. She had it all set up that her daughter would try out and spend the night sharing a motel room with 3 other cheerleaders, and she knew exactly what the meals were going to cost, and she asked Mr. Stevens for the PTA fund to be able to sponsor her on this trip, and he made the decision of no, stating that he did not think the funds should benefit just one student, but instead the funds are meant to benefit several students, and her daughter would just be one student receiving money, where he did not think that was correct. At the end of the evening of this basketball game, Mr. Stevens is counting the money and discovers that the money collected and the number of tickets sold do not add up correctly. So again, problem identification and analysis. What do I need to know? I need to know, was there anyone else with Mrs. Bowman working at the gate, taking tickets and receiving money on this night? And also, if Mrs. Bowman threw away torn tickets number 78 through 88, can the damaged or torn tickets be located? Mrs. Bowman left a note in the gate money box stating that she had to throw away 10 tickets because they were damaged and torn. And so obviously we cannot account for those money for those 10 tickets that were thrown away. Funds do not add up. I would need to do more investigating in the case of the missing $50 bill that was supposedly used for admission by a patron. Was it changed out with the concession stand money, or was it used to make change for a $100 bill that may be in one of the other bank bags from either concession or another gate that might have been there that evening? When Mr. Stevens is watching the game, he has a patron walk up beside him and make a comment about having to use a $50 bill to get into the game tonight. And so Mr. Stevens, when he's counting money at the end of the night, he's looking for that $50 bill and he cannot find it. So we have 10 tickets missing that supposedly were not sold, and we also have $50 missing from the bank bag. Category 2, proposed plan of action, strategies for implementation. What steps are we going to take to possibly solve this unknown, solve the issue here? First of all, I would interview all adult workers at Friday's game for both concessions and gates. One thing I would make sure is to ask them about the torn tickets that were discarded. Can we find these torn tickets? Which trash can did you throw them in? Are they in your pocket? Can I see them, please? If indeed Mrs. Bowman did have someone sitting with her at the gate, I would question both of those adults to see if there were times when maybe one of them were alone, or was the money ever left unattended? Even though it seems obvious that Mrs. Bowman is guilty of stealing the money, I cannot rule out that other individuals working that night may be as guilty as well. At this point, Nothing can be proven, and that's the problem. Nothing can be proven. Category 3, to resolve the issues based on promoting the success of students. After all, we are here, we are there for the students, and some things we need to consider. First of all, we have $50 missing, and it's understandable that something can and will go wrong when you have only one school supervisor trying to manage all duties at a basketball game, including parent volunteers handling money. This person supervising is very important and has many duties that I'll touch on later. Some things also to consider: are gate workers required to count the money upon receiving the cash box? And then again, when returning the cash box, are signatures collected? Is money handed directly to the administrator, or is the money ever left unattended? We have some things here that we could hold our workers accountable for. Counting the money as soon as they receive it at the beginning of the evening and signing off that that much money was in the bank bag. At the end of the evening, counting the money once again and signing off that that is what they are returning, as well as the number of tickets sold. Holding on to the money until an administrator is present, and then where does that money go after it leaves the gate workers? Does the administrator lock it up into a safe spot? If Mrs. Bowman or others are found guilty of stealing the money, the school district will handle accordingly, and more than likely parent volunteers will not be allowed to work the gates or the concessions. Again, something went wrong, $50 is missing. We have to go on from here. If we cannot prove that someone stole it, or if we do prove that Mrs. Bowman stole the money, then we will proceed accordingly. Category 3, to resolve the issues based on promoting the success of students. Once again, other things to consider. As a principal, I would request for additional personnel to help sponsor the activities. As I said before, one person cannot manage the gate, manage the concession stand, do crowd control, take care of the officials, and everything else that a person might be responsible for. Secondly, as a principal, this is maybe some see that this has nothing to do with it, but I do. I would not want to make the decision on my own regarding Mrs. Bowman's request to fund her daughter's all-state cheer tryouts. If we're talking about PTA funds, I feel like that should be a PTA group or committee decision, maybe with the guidance and suggestions from an administrator, but the principal should not solely be responsible for making that decision. Maybe all of this could have been halted if he had asked for other input and had a group decision on sponsoring this daughter at her cheer tryouts. After all, she's a student, she's cheerleading, which is a benefit to the school. Why can't we sponsor one student? She was the one chosen for all state tryouts. If we have one wrestler go to state wrestling, we're going to sponsor him, and that's not benefiting an entire group. That's benefiting him because he is the only one that made it to state wrestling. So I think I would have to gain some help there and not make that decision on my own. Category 4, debriefing the problem by reflecting. So we have the issue, we've investigated, maybe we still don't have any answers, so now we have to debrief and reflect on what happened. First, excuse me, if parent volunteers are absolutely needed to work at school events, we should probably require 2 adults at the table. We are not paying them, they are volunteers, so why not have 2? Make them accountable. Administrators and school boards should evaluate the procedure for handling gate money and pre-numbered tickets. Maybe things just aren't in place as we think they are, and obviously there's holes in the policy. We probably need to stiffen it up and set guidelines. At my school, we have a sign-in sheet. The worker signs in, counts the money, signs how much money they received. At the end of the night, counts the money again, signs how much money they took in. Hands it off to administrator, who signs again that they received the bank bag at this particular time, and the administrator is responsible for getting it to the bank that evening in the night deposit box. Something else is we rotate our workers. Workers do not become comfortable in one position. We have staff workers, but they rotate from front gate to back gate to concession stand to clock if they're able and willing, to scorebook if they're able and willing, etc. Again, this is kind of what I touched on, specific, direct instructions. Maybe we have holes in our policy and we're not catching it, and if we review our policy, we might be able to prevent something like this happening in the future. Finally, Category 5, reflecting on Standard 8. How can I promote effective and efficient management of my school or district? Just looking back in the whole scheme of things, we have $50 that is miscounted for. Something went wrong, so this is an opportunity to learn and correct issues. If in fact the money was stolen, again, we will handle as accordingly. Maybe we will decide that parents can't work. And if we decide that parents cannot work at the gate, then who's going to do it? The staff at my school will have to step up and assume responsibility. How will I promote the social learning of every student? Social learning. Athletics and activities are the other half of education. As an administrator, I will promote the social learning of students by allowing these events to happen, whether they be athletic events, music events, or academic events. These activities are imperative for our students. They have to happen, so we need to figure out how we're going to allow these activities to continue to take place. School activities do require a number of adult workers. When workers are asked to handle money, again, guidelines need to be put in place that might help prevent the mishandling of money. Put students' best interest in front of anything else. This might mean the principal is paying more attention to the students and activity more than anything else. Ask for help. How will I promote student academic learning? As a functioning district, it is imperative that we have policy, and this policy must be consistently established, evaluated, communicated, and modeled. Consistency is the key word between administration, staff, parents, and students. As a principal, I must be visible, establish relationships to build trust and respect. As a future administrator, my goal would be to have a building full of team players who work towards the common goal of these students. Sometimes I know it's easy to have a bunch of individuals not working together, and that's the main role of an administrator, is to bring people together. I will work fairly, make sound decisions based on the student's best interest. I may not be popular, but I will be fair and consistent. I've enjoyed this course. Thank you. You've all been beneficial to me. I have learned a lot from all of you. Thank you.